I wouldn't call what shot through my shoulder when I knocked into the other woman static shock. It felt more like lightning. Not lightning striking me, but like the time when I was 11 and my brother and I waited out a rainstorm at a convenience store. All the hair on our bodies had risen in the air and wriggled faintly, caught in an electric breeze for a full minute before lightning had struck a car in the parking lot across the street. It had been exhilarating and terrifying then. But in this moment, without a storm, it was mostly just terrifying. I jumped back from the woman with a screech, but managed to keep my feet. The same could not be said of her as she crashed to the ground with a yelp, her head bouncing lightly against the wall on the other side of the hallway. "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay?" I ask, scrambling to help her up. When my hand connects with her bare shoulder, another shock races up my arm, this time with numbing force and an audible snap. My ears pop at the loudness of the sound echoing in the narrow hallway, and I shove myself backwards, falling against the opposite wall. "Oh my god, what is happening?" I hiss as I slide down the wall to sit on the ground. My eyelids flutter and twitch with leftover energy, so I squeeze them shut. "Am I dying?" gasps the other woman. Is this what dying feels like?" "I really hope not. I've got tickets to Hamilton tonight." A strained laugh comes across the way, and I meet the sound with a laugh of my own before taking a deep breath and slowly opening my still twitching eyes. The light stings sharply and my vision blurs. I blink several times until my sight is mostly clear and focus on the woman across from me. She is fully lying on the ground, her back pressed against the wall. Her dark hair is splayed messily across her face, obscuring her features. Over the short distance, I can see there's a slight shake to her limbs as her chest rises and falls with uneven breaths. "Seriously, are you okay?" I ask, shifting forward. "Please don't touch me." She must have heard me moving because she says this without even opening her eyes. "I think I might be allergic to you." I huff out another laugh. "Fair point, but could you at least sit up or something? You're kind of scaring me." "Yeah, just give me a minute." "How about this? I'll count to 60, and if you're still not up, I'm calling an ambulance." "Don't do that. I'm uninsured." "That's illegal." "Please, shut up," she says with a soft, raspy laugh. After a moment, she begins to shift to her back. Her curtain of hair slides away from her face, revealing the soft curve of a smile, tucked into two round cheeks and set under a long nose that ends with a rounded tip. A sense of recognition flutters through me, and my gaze flickers up to hers. Her eyes remain closed, dark lashes pressing gently into the bronze skin of those round cheeks. I don't know this woman. I know I don't, but something about her seems familiar. Slowly, I watch as her eyes drift open and then blink closed several times just as mine had moments before. Her gaze is locked on the ceiling as she tries to get her breathing under control. "You good?" I ask after a long second, trying to shake off this strange sense of knowing. "I think..." She pushes out one long breath, and then another, eyes still trained to the paneled ceiling above. "What was that?" I have no idea. My words trail off as her brown eyes meet mine. I know this woman. I have known her for half an age. I have known her as a woman 37 times and as a man only 15. The first time we met, she had been a man called Amal, a medicine man who had come to my village's Sina for tea leaves. The last time we had met for the first time, she had been a woman called Imogen, a shopgirl in Wales, and I had been a bloke called Jeremy, traveling the world to find myself. Instead, I found her. Like I always had. Our gaze locked to one another's, magnetized as our breaths begin to sink in a ceremony that is as familiar to us as riding a bike. At first, each breath is shallow and quick. In and out, in and out, in and out. Every exhale nearly tripping over the next inhale. As minutes pass and we find our center, Our breaths lengthen and deepen. In and out. In and out. Lifetime after lifetime pour through us. Every second a year's memory. Every decade its own inhale and exhale as we remember our many lives together. It is nearly 4 minutes before the connection finally breaks. Our eyes flutter closed at the same moment, and my breath becomes mine alone once more. I slump into the wall at my back to get my bearings as quiet descends between us. I focus on the sounds of our individual breathing and press my palms flat and firm into the cool floor beneath me to ground myself. Some minutes pass before I hear her shift, and suddenly something heavy strikes my chest. My eyes fly open to see her boots skittering away from me. Ow! What the hell, Imogen? I told you not to take the back roads while it was raining, she shouts angrily. I told you it was too dangerous at night. She yanks off her other boot and slings it at me with even more force. It smacks me in the same place, forcing a grunt of surprised pain from me. Stop that! I'm sorry! How was I supposed to know it would flood? There were signs, Jeffrey, all over the road. She picks up her purse and reels back to toss it next. Don't throw that! I said I was sorry. I didn't think we would die. You're not allowed to drive this lifetime, she commands, purse still at the ready. You've lost privileges this entire lifetime. Do you hear me? Yes, dear. Of course, dear, I say quickly. Did you drive here today? Give me your keys. Now. Without pause, I dig into my crossbody bag and pull the keys out, holding them out to her in the space between us like a sign of surrender. She reaches forward and snatches them away, eyeing the keys suspiciously. Tesla? This had better not be a Cybertruck. I clear my throat and quickly ask my own question. So, what are you called this time around? I stutter out. She pauses, and I'm not sure if she's gonna let it go, but finally she says, Fatima. And you? Iris. Her eyebrows crinkle together in just the way I knew they would. Again? She asks. Isn't this like the 4th time? I think it might actually be the 6th. What can I say? It's a classic name for a classic girl like me. She rolls her eyes, but doesn't hold back her smile. With the familiar curve of those lips, something in me unravels. No matter who we are when we meet again, that smile is always the same. Lips partially open and curled to one side to let out a small, huffing laugh. This is my person, no matter what skin they're in. So, I say slowly, lesbians again? We're still fighting. You'll be lucky to be considered an acquaintance at this point. I have time. I'll win you over. I always do. I have been told on more than one occasion by several different people that I like to do emotional damage on my loved ones via media suggestions. I've had to stop saying, oh, you know what's a good watch? Because these words can invoke an instant pass in some of my friends and family. I want to say this is unfair, but I can't. I really, really, really love emotional things. Now, that doesn't always mean sad. It just often does. By my definition, something emotional just has to invoke an emotion in the watcher or listener. The emotion invoked could be joy, like I feel when I'm listening to 17's music, or anger, like I feel when I'm conned into watching yet another James Bond flick, or embarrassment, like when I'm, for some reason, rewatching videos of me from college. Existence is made up of an entire array of feelings outside of just sadness, but I would be lying if I said sad isn't one of my favorites. What does this have to do with the very cute story you just listened to? Well, unabashedly, one of my favorite tropes is past life partners. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but that's the way I think of it. Regardless of what its rightful name is, I love it. It is positively rife with opportunities for emotion. So, full disclosure, this is another one of those stories I will never finish. It seems to be moving towards being a blossoming love story of some sort. And though I am not opposed to reading or watching romantic things, it is very much not in my creative wheelhouse. I like my fictional romance to be fluffy, with small hurdles that can be overcome via a bunch of communication. I adore a happy ending. Unfortunately, I'm incapable of writing such a thing. I can't stop myself from grounding my characters in reality when it comes to interpersonal relationships, even if I'm dabbling in fantasy. This often makes it quite the feat to land at a traditional happy ending for me, so I typically just avoid writing it altogether. Now that I have said my piece, let's go over some of the ways I would have ruined the story had I not stopped it at the sweet part. Because honestly, there's nothing to say that there is a happily ever after past this moment. Multiple universes of problems would be created if this world were a reality. These two people lived whole lives up until this point. They have connections and relations that are not just made moot by some cosmic meet cute where they regain wisdom of many lives lived. That is to say, what if one or both of them are already in a relationship? I mean, if it's a new one, maybe they don't mind just breaking it off, but what if one of them is in a 5+ year relationship? What if they'd been talking marriage with their partner? What if Iris was going to see a play with her boyfriend who was planning on proposing during the intermission? What if Fatima is already married and just found out moments before this that she's pregnant with her first child? And that's just on the relational level. What if one of them is a wanton criminal? Or worse, a criminal that has not even been discovered? What if one of them is a cop or a political leader? What if? How massively would something like this change your life? And should you even let it? I mean, obviously, if you watched my inevitable video, you know how I feel about some power outside of my own will dictating the course of my life. What if one of these two decided, no, they would not be giving in because this is the life they had built and they did not want to play this game of fate? And outside of this present, how has it affected their pasts? In my headcanon, when these two people first met, Fatima, air quotes, was a young man and Iris was an old woman. They connected in a way that was powerful and platonic, probably through trauma bonding or some occult nonsense. And when their bodies moved on from that life, their souls followed each other into the next. I don't imagine they were always reborn at the same time. There were times where they met as children, I'm sure, but more often than not, I would imagine some sort of age gap. Some lifetimes it would be a manageable span, and in other lives the span would be too large for them to contemplate anything other than friendship. I bet it took a lot of lifetimes for them to move from friends to lovers. I bet that was rife with misunderstandings and pettiness and heartache, mixed in with the joy and love and wonder of learning each other deeply. I think it could be really fun to play with the idea of what knowledge they can retain from life to life. I want to say one of them remembers every single language they have ever spoken in any existence. But if they don't find each other and remember their old selves until late into their current lives, it is impossible for them to get the accent right. So they're stuck speaking ancient Mesopotamian with a Swahili accent in one life and speaking Cantonese with a thick Southern American twang in another. Or one of them, having been a prolific warlord at some point, is always an expert strategist, even without remembering their past selves. They would be the type of person you would hate to play games like Catan or Risk with because they would destroy you with a giant smile on their face. I also imagine they have heaps of treasure and old money stored in places only they could access from eras where they were pirates or highway robbers. I could not imagine they were always good people. Perhaps they would break laws out of the desperation that comes from poverty or the need to survive. But I'm sure they would have also done things out of anger and vengeance, holding grudges against whole empires from life to life because their memory is inextinguishable. I wonder if, when they meet again each time, they have a night where they just drink and reminisce, talking through the trials of past lives and the many ways they've grown. I wonder if they grow somber as they sink deeper into their cups, remembering the parents and siblings, friends and children lost to them forever. People they love who are not caught in this never-ending cycle, who get only one life to live. Yeah, this could be a really fun story. I would love to read it someday. Live, kid. Live and live and live.